Hello all, this is Britt here on behalf of Game Freezer, and today I'm going to be talking you through the new Retrobit controllers. We're going to look at the N64 Tribute controller and the SEGA Saturn Tribute controller. I am more au fait with the SEGA Saturn controller because it is one of my favourite controllers. I've used it for a long time, mainly on SEGA Rally, because I never get bored of that game. And I'll start with this because this controller is really similar to the original design, to the point that when I was testing them out, I was actually trying both controllers, and at one point I kind of forgot which one was which, but there is a way to tell. If I can grab my other controller, I can show you an example of this. Here it is. As you can see, they both look very similar, and the build quality is tasty on them both. But with the original controller, like all Sega controllers, that creak is there. And the shoulder buttons have a sort of high-pitched click, which is quite a specific sound. So you've got the... Whereas on these controllers, it's... And that is pretty much the only difference, really. It's an amazing controller. When I was playing, I played through a golf game, Valora Valley Golf, the Last Bronx, Sega Rally, and a little bit of Shining Force 3, which uses most of the buttons on the controller. And I just kind of forgot I was supposed to be reviewing it because it just felt so comfortable. I just started playing the games, so that's a really good sign. So the Sega Saturn controller is really tasty. There's no real issue with it at all, beyond the fact that, and it's like I said, it's a real niggle, but those shoulder buttons don't have that crisp click of the original controller. But for the price of these, I was in an expo a few weeks ago up in Manchester, and I bought a controller, which I don't have to hand now, unfortunately, and that cost me 20 quid, and that controller's like 24 years old. So of course you're paying 25 quid when I could get a boxed controller that's got the Sega seal of quality on it from Retrobit. I would just go for this. If my official controller broke, I would just buy this, because it's just a really solid controller and very difficult to tell apart from the official one. So great controller, boom. The N64 Tribute controller is a bit of a different kettle of fish. I was looking at sort of doing a little bit of research, and apparently this is based on the Hori controller, but it's about a third of the price. Again, it's in the UK it's about £20. So the Hori controller, I believe, is £60, and I never liked the original N64 controller at all. I didn't mind it for GoldenEye, but the kind of games I played with my friends on the N64 were like San Francisco Rush, Cruis'n World, Cruis'n USA, and this is it just feels much more natural. It's got a sort of more of a modern sensibility to it, where you've got it's kind of Dreamcasty in a way, where it's got the sort of D-pad on this side and the analog stick, just one analog stick here, as opposed to the original, Trident controller. The only issue with it is really good. It's a really tasty controller. The shoulder buttons are the way it sort of fits in your hand is a bit unusual, because your hands rest there on the back. There's sort of grooves for your fingers, but on the shoulder buttons, your fingers kind of lie. You're not pressing the button, if you know what I mean, like this. They kind of lie across them, because I've got normal sized hands, and as you can see there, it's just you kind of press them with it looks a bit weird, but it's actually really comfortable, because it reminds me a little bit of the Switch Joy-Cons when they're in the clamp, with a sort of handheld mode, where it just feels nice and compact and responsive. I did have an issue. I'm a big fan of wrestling games on the N64, and I was playing WCW versus NWO Revenge, and in that game, of course, the analog stick kind of controls your taunts, and it's the D-pad that moves your wrestler around the ring. And the issue with that is, on here, I don't know if you can see there's the A and B buttons there, and your fingers kind of get in the way of each other a little bit when you're doing that. So when you're using the D-pad, it's a little bit sort of in the way of itself. I've played through about 15-20 games on the N64 just testing this out, and that was the only issue I had. It feels really good. It's, like I said, it's got that kind of compact sensibility to it. The analog stick has got the sort of ridges in it, so I don't know if you can see there, where it feels like a definite click to each area. And when I was playing it, I was throwing on Cruis'n World, San Francisco Rush, just kind of playing it, and just forgot I was supposed to be reviewing the pad. It just felt so natural. Although I would say the Saturn pad is a very high quality, good replacement should your official pad break, or you need a second controller, for example, if you pick up a Saturn wherever. This is just something I would buy because I don't like the N64 controller. It's okay for GoldenEye, you know, the original controller, but this just makes much more sense when you're playing any other game, any other RPG, any other... You don't feel like you're kind of fighting against a really sort of idiosyncratic controller for the sake of it. This has now made me dig up my N64 and just want to set it up with the rest of the systems here and just play it more regularly, because quite frankly, it just updates it and makes it much more comfortable and ergonomic. So the Retrobit controllers, really good stuff. I would heartily recommend them, and if anything happened, especially with an N64 controller, which are notorious for the stick losing its sort of rigidity and just flopping around, I would just buy this. I would just buy 2 or 4 of these, obviously playing Perfect Dark multiplayer. But the SEGA Saturn controller is just really top notch as well. Okay, the only difference is the shoulder click is a slightly different pitch, and I don't think anyone cares about that.